I'm David Volk, a voice of the resistance. Today's post, Project 2025 wants revenge on NPR. Morning edition, could take it in the shorts. When I took a year off to go travel many years ago, my friends wanted me to travel with a blow-up sheep so that I could take pictures of it posed in front of major world landmarks, but I didn't have room in my backpack. So they gave me a small shortwave radio instead. I loved that radio, even though it was a different kind of love, and one of my favorite things to do when I was lonely and homesick in a non-English speaking country was to look for English on the radio dial. Inevitably, I would find my way to a Voice of America radio station. In case you haven't heard of it, VOA is essentially a network of stations around the world that began broadcasting information about America when the Nazis were filling the airwaves with anti-American propaganda. The Nazis are gone, but VOA has lived on with a mix of news, information, and services in the years since. One of my favorite features when I was on the road was a show called The News in Special English. It was a news show for non-native English speakers with the news read really, really slow. The concept made sense because whenever I've tried to learn a new language, I noticed that native speakers always talk way too fast. In theory, it was a great idea. In reality, it was unintentionally hilarious because of the newsreader. Just imagine it. Instead of hearing a newsreader say, President Biden signed a new bill into law today, I heard, President Biden signed a new bill into law today. After listening on and off for a month, I began wondering if that was the way the announcer actually spoke and how others reacted to him. I could just see him seeing his wife at the end of the day and saying, honey, I'm home, while his long-suffering spouse stood at the door greeting him, waiting for him to spit out what he was going to say. Then overcompensating for his slowness by saying, I'm so glad you're home, don't forget to mow the lawn and take out the trash, only to have him respond, I will do it right after dinner. Then when he finished and sat down to watch the game, he would inevitably say, honey, bring me a beer. After which he would say, I'm busy, get your own damn beer. Sorry. Then he went to bed and started work with the new show, A Divorce, in Special English. What does all this have to do with the current chapter of Project 2025 that I'm reading? Well, not much really, other than the fact that both involve the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which runs the Voice of America and its program. Not only that, but one of the vice presidents of the agency under Trump wrote this chapter. As the acting vice president for legal compliance and risk, author Maura Namdar told another officer to compile negative information on agency executives who weren't loyal to Dementia J. Trump as part of an effort to fire employees from previous administrations and replace them with Trump loyalists. Those moves were part of an effort to move the Voice of America from being an unbiased news source to airing pro-Trump propaganda. So it's no surprise that she doesn't like the direction the agency has taken since she left. I know, it's a shock, right? Here are the highlights of what she wants to, do to make things better. 1, shut it all down. Although she says she agrees that the mission of the agency is to, quote, inform, engage, and connect people around the world in support of freedom and democracy, end quote, she says she thinks it's doing a shitty job. If it can't be reformed, she wants to defund it and close it all down. The anchor of the News in Special English was heard to say, I oppose this because... But by that point, he had taken so long that everyone got frustrated and walked away because it was taking him so long to make his point. Number 2, a face made for radio. All this internet and other newfangled technology is great and all, but don't forget radio. You remember radio, don't you? It's this thing you have in your car that doesn't need a wireless connection. We might otherwise lose contact if undersea cables are cut. It pains me to say that she could be partly right. Number 3, meet the new boss, same as her old boss. She wants the agency to report to the president and be overseen by the National Security Council. I'm sure that will do wonders for editorial independence. Number 4, voice lessons. The Voice of America should be managed by the NSC, or the Office of Global Public Affairs at the State Department, which just happens to have been created by the Trump administration. Go figure. You weren't supposed to see that. Number 5, she also points out that there's a rule called the Smith-Mundt Act. Who the hell comes up with these names anyways? The Smith-Mundt Act says that the Voice of America and all other agency stations are meant to be heard abroad only, but that, horror of horrors, the agency used taxpayer dollars to promote Biden's agenda domestically. Methinks she is just jealous. While we're at it, she's not the only one who's pissed off about what's going out over the airwaves. The author of the second half of the chapter wants to defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which is one of the largest sources of funding for National Public Radio and the public broadcasting system. It gets other money from those endless fund drives where you can get a tote bag for several $1,000s, or just wait a couple years and get it in a thrift store for $1. But most of it comes in the form of taxpayer dollars funneled through the Corporation for Public. I don't know why I can't say public broadcasting. Here's why they want to cut that funding. 1, its programs are too damn liberal. There's a funny thing about facts. They tend to be lean liberal. At least as Republicans see it. That's because liberal-leaning Dems like to rely on provable facts, while snowflake Republicans tend to make things up to fit their narrative. Like their stories about people eating dogs in Springfield. Cons hate it when you spoil a good story with facts, which helps explain why Fox is so popular among conservatives. Number 2, its audience is too damn liberal. For some reason, liberals seem to like facts way more than conservatives. As a result, 2025 says the audience is 60% liberal and 15% conservative. Dudes, that's only 75%. Did I mention that conservatives aren't all that great when it comes to math either? Except when it comes to counting money. Of course, they consider your tax dollars part of their fortunes. Number 3, they are still angry over the cancellation of the Prairie Home Companion. For the last time, people, it wasn't canceled. The host decided he didn't want to do the show anymore. Interestingly, the show gained even more popularity among conservatives after it was revealed that the host had sexually harassed some of his employees. Go figure. Don't get me wrong. NPR will continue without that money. It will just be a stripped-down model. Maybe it will be regional public radio, or maybe they'll have to trade Nina Totenberg and Scott Simon for an announcer to be named later. And the saga continues. I've been David Volk, a voice of the resistance, albeit a strange and funny one.